Have you ever considered Ohio for relocation? They don't have the best reputation, but believe it or not, this state has never dropped in population. Every single census since 1810, they have gained citizens. Even when their economy collapsed and their manufacturing collapsed in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, they grew. But since 2020, they've only gained a little over 100,000 residents. That's not a lot, but most are moving for the affordability. Both housing and cost of living are always below the national average. Even their major cities sit well below the national average on both. If you're thinking about moving to Ohio, you should watch this video. We're going to tell you things you should know that haven't been done to death on other channels on YouTube. We aren't talking about the snow, the crime, the poverty. They have those. We all know it. Let's dig a little deeper. Number 10, hardcore football. First, let's start with the college football. Ohio State football isn't a hobby here. It's closer to a civic religion. And saying the word Michigan while at a Buckeyes game is basically a slur. Game days here are insane, and I'm not just talking about the people that are tailgating at the stadium themselves. People have barbecues, people sit in dens and basements and invite people over. They yell at the TV, and in some cases they act like those soccer hooligans or football hooligans in Europe. Now they do have other universities that have football, but nobody really cares. It's all about the Buckeyes. And if you went to Ohio University, I'm sorry, your Bobcats will always play second fiddle to the Buckeyes. And even further down the pecking line, you'll find Kent State University and the Akron Zips, which most people outside of Ohio don't even think those two universities have football teams. Then, of course, you got to look at the professional football. They have two major teams in this state, the Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals. Browns fans love the Browns, even though they continually suck year after year after year. Cincinnati, even when they're having rough times, they still pack that stadium. It only makes sense. This is the state that houses the Football Hall of Fame in Canton. Now, if you don't care about sports, that's fine, but you will find it bleeding into your daily life just for living in this state. Unless you're a hermit or a shut-in, then don't worry about it. Number 9, pothole season is its own recognized thing. Ohio, like a lot of other Midwestern states, has pothole season. If you're coming from Southern California, Florida, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, your potholes are nothing compared to what's going on in the Midwest, and especially the upper Midwest. What's happening here is the freeze-thaw cycle each winter and springs, and it chews up the roads. So much that cities run dedicated pothole reporting hotlines, and I'm sure they got websites too, and then after that, once things get going and they get enough reports, they have pothole blitzes. That's where they gather all the city workers and they just go out and attack all these potholes. They fix the potholes, it lasts about 4 months, and then they got more potholes. It's an ongoing thing. It's a definite growth business if you're in the pothole fixing business. This is the way it's always been and the way it will always be until we get those jets and flying cars we were all promised by a cartoon back in the 70s. I'm still waiting for a treadmill that sticks out from my deck with no guardrails or nets or anything, just the treadmill, and you could walk your dog on it and hope you don't get a cramp or something and go shooting down the 20-story building. Now that I look back at some of those cartoons, I'm all, what the hell, why did I think that could be a thing someday? But the whole pothole thing is something you'll never hear about on some YouTube channel for the state or for some small town or city. They'll tell you about the 4 seasons, but they won't tell you about some of the results of those 4 seasons that are negative. Potholes being one of them. How's this going to bother you? Well, there's a few things. One, traffic will be backed up and it'll probably delay wherever you're going at some point. So you have to actually know when pothole season starts because there's going to be delays. On top of it, you're eventually going to hit some good potholes and destroy the suspension on your car. Now, a lot of people that are from the Midwest or cold states are thinking this is not a big deal. It's because you're used to it. This video is for people that are thinking about relocating to those states. Also, this is obviously not something that would stop someone from changing their life by moving to another state. It's just something you should be aware of. Number 8, ninja taxes. Ohio has all the standard taxes that every other state has. But eventually, you'll likely pay income tax to a city agency you've never heard of. Over 600 Ohio municipalities levy their own income taxes, and there's no single agency handling all of them. Instead, you deal with one of a few different systems depending on where you live and work. RITA alone, RITA, which stands for Regional Income Tax Agency, alone serves over 300 municipalities. And CCA, which is the Central Collection Agency, serves about 200 more. Then you have the big cities, where they actually have their own separate tax office entirely. Weird little tax situations like this are just insane to me. We have one here in Portland, Oregon. It's for the metro area, and it's called Metro. So you have the city or the county taking taxes, the state, the federal government, then you got these little special ones. It sucks. I mean, nobody likes taxes. Have you ever seen anyone that's excited about paying their taxes? But when they have all these confusing different agencies and you just move there, it's a bit of a pain. With overall taxes, Ohio's not the worst. I'm not saying they are. They're actually ranked 11th in the nation for the highest taxes, so they're almost in that top 10. They're worse than Illinois. The only thing you get a break on in Ohio is the property tax. It's 5th in the nation for the lowest. Number 7, grocery turf. The grocery and pharmacy landscape is Kroger territory in Ohio. Kroger is headquartered in Cincinnati and dominates the grocery market across the state to a degree that will surprise some people from other regions. You have a lot more, chain diversity in other states. I guess all states are getting that way a little bit. I mean, up here in Oregon, we used to have Safeway and Albertsons and a few other places. Now we have Fred Meyer's and Safeway. Now, some of you may say, this is not a big deal, Briggs. What's the deal? Yeah, you're right. It's not life-changing, but some people do have a certain loyalty to a brand, and sometimes they have a hatred for other grocery stores. I hate Trader Joe's. I think that place sucks. Growing up in Southern California, we had Lucky's, Vaughn's, and Ralph's. I only went to Lucky's. What do they got where you're from? And is there one you can't stand? Let us know in the comment section. A lot of times it has to do with price. Certain grocery stores are more expensive than others. As a matter of fact, that Lucky's, it was a lot cheaper than Ralph's was back in the day. Then you have the value in like bulk grocery stores. You got Costco, Sam's Club. Out here we have Winco. Well, if you move to Ohio, you might not have all those choices. You're gonna get Kroger. Number 6, an accent with split personality. Ohio has some different accents, and a lot of that has to do with Appalachia, especially when you hear local Ohio residents say Appalachia. You might get 10 different versions from people that have lived there their whole life. There's a YouTube channel called Apololachia, I think that's how you pronounce it, but they had 105 people call in to a recorded line and say some things like Appalachia and Appalachia. And they'd show the counties, and you could see the difference between the southeast counties and the northwest counties. Then don't even get me started on the different cities. The major metro areas have their own accents. Normally one would have to go 2 or 3 states away to hear such an extreme difference, but no, Ohio's working it all out within their own borders. Ohio is a Midwest state, obviously. But there are parts of that state where the people talk, they sound like they're Southern. Then you have the words that they just say differently, like Lima, Ohio is actually Lima, Ohio to them. A sweeper is a vacuum. There's a town that's spelt like Russia, Ohio, but it's Rushi to them. France has a palace called Versailles. Ohio's got the same spelling, but they call it Versailles, Ohio. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce those perfect, but people in Ohio are weird. It doesn't end there. If you go to Toledo or Cleveland, words are often spoken faster and hit harder. It even gets switched around depending on the region. We already talked about the South with the Appalachian, but then the Midland have their own way of pronouncing things, and then Inland Northern has their own way of pronouncing things. In the Midland, they don't say cat, they say something that sounds more like kiat. It's just weird and slightly complicated sometimes. Number 5, metro differences. Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Columbus are culturally distinct cities that don't like being lumped together. Moving to the state thinking Ohio's just Ohio and there's not really much of a difference, you'll get corrected pretty quick. Cincinnati has a German Appalachian river town identity and its own chili tradition, served over spaghetti, and that's, a local institution for them. That is just weird. I've made it a few times. I think it's pretty good, but when you see it, it just seems a little strange. They put cheddar cheese on top of it. Try it sometimes, it's delicious. But Cincinnati is definitely a lot different, and I did a video on it, and it's a sort of a forgotten town in a way, because Cincinnati was this major part of the United States growth. And then when the train came around and river traffic wasn't as important, Cincinnati, I wouldn't say died, they just stopped the growth. They have one really interesting neighborhood there called Over the Rhine. Over the Rhine 10, 15 years ago was one of the worst places to live in Ohio. It was a really bad neighborhood. That city turned it around, and now it's one of the most sought after neighborhoods in the country. I mean, many neighborhoods have turned it around, but the drastic change that Over the Rhine has seen is incredible. Cleveland, it's totally different. It has that Rust Belt Great Lakes identity. This is a city that's fallen on hard times, and the people there, they're resilient, kind of tough, and don't really have much time for nonsense. Cleveland is a very, very interesting city, though, even though it's had those bad times. I mean, it's one of the harshest hit Rust Belt cities in the US. They still have some pretty scary neighborhoods that should be avoided, a lot of empty warehouses, a lot of neighborhoods that would probably be better off if they bulldozed them. But they also have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is kind of cool. And Columbus is totally different. It's this fast-growing, corporate, university-driven capital of Ohio. They've never had a major collapse like Cleveland or Toledo, but they've always maintained a certain amount of respectability, and now it's a really nice place to live. It's just gotten better over the years. And before you do, sure, they got some crime, just like every other city in the world. That's what happens when you have people living next to each other. Crimes happen. More people means more problems. Always. Columbus is not that bad compared to a lot of other cities that are in Rust Belt states. I wouldn't say it's one of the best capitals in the United States, but it's pretty good. If I had to choose between any of them, Columbus would be where I would move. This is where you're going to find a majority of the millennials in Ohio. They've all moved to Columbus. They've got a growing tech scene, have for years. This is also where you'll find Ohio State, which we talked about earlier. Definitely is the best city to live in Ohio. I mean, all around. Each one has their nice things. Each one has their negatives. It's just Columbus has more positives than negatives. The really interesting thing, their cost of living is below the national average. This is a good city, and people want to live here, and it's below the national average. That's amazing. Housing, same thing. They're 8% lower than the national average, which is not bad. Their only negative is their crime, and it's not terrible. It's only 36% above the national average. And if you're new to this channel, I say it all the time, that's nothing compared to some of the other cities we have where they have 300 and 400% above the national average when it comes to crime. So 36 is not a big deal. It's not nothing, but it's not the worst. Their traffic isn't terrible compared to a lot of other major cities. Health and safety is great because of the university and other great hospitals they have there. And if you're younger, their schools get graded a B. All around, not a bad place to live. Number 4, open container on your lawn. Now, this is really weird. All states, or at least most states, have open container laws where you can't just walk around with an open beer down the sidewalk and, walking around. There's New Orleans, they'll give you a to-go cup if you leave a bar. There's places like that, but for the most part, most cities and most states have open container laws. Ohio's a little bit different. You can get an open container ticket or, be arrested for it on your front lawn. This is why. They say if your lawn is open to the public, like your yard, you can't sit on your front grass and have a beer. You have to have a fence of some sort to make it private. You can go in your backyard and drink all you want, but if you sit on your front lawn with no fence or anything like that, they can give you that ticket. If you have an enclosed porch, that's fine too. Myself, I think this is just a way for them to arrest those annoying neighbors. You know that everyone has those worst neighbors. They get drunk and they just start trouble and they stand on their lawn. They act like they're the king of the universe and they're just a nuisance to the whole neighborhood. I think this is one of those laws they have in place that they use to deal with other problems. It's almost like gun-free zones in cities, and they still have gun violence all over the place. The gun-free zone isn't there to really stop people from carrying guns near the school. No criminal's going to think about that. What it does is give them the ability to make an easier prosecution if you do get caught shooting around a school or something like that. I get the feeling that's what this is. Just another way for the man to violate your rights. So get a keg, invite your friends over, and drink in the backyard. Definitely not on the front lawn. Number 3, school taxes. School districts can levy their own separate income tax. It's called SDIT. This is on top of municipal taxes, and it's easy to miss if you move mid-year. It's a common source for surprise tax bills for people who move between school districts or move to Ohio without realizing that their new address falls within a taxing district like this. Now, This might be great for some people. Don't mind paying for the schools, that's great. What if you don't have kids? My kids are all grown. I'm not worried about the schools anymore. But if you move in one of their districts, you're going to be paying a tax to help fund those schools. You still got to pay your state income tax, still got to pay your property taxes, business taxes if you own it, your RETA taxes or CCA. You start to get the feeling that this is like a magician's sleight of hand. They get you looking this way and then they get you over here. Like an optical illusion. No, your taxes are only 1.2% for the school district. That's not much at all. But then you're all, but I have that CCA and that's 1 point whatever. Then my state income tax is another thing. Then I got my federal taxes, sales taxes. If this calculator's working right, you're getting 60 of every $100 I make. I've always found it amazing how the taxes always seem to be going up, but the problems the city face keeps getting worse. Everyone says we should run the government like a business. If we were running the government like a business, all those people in charge right now would be fired at their first performance evaluation. It's like, Mayor Peters, come on in. This is your performance review, and just so you know, we gave you everything you asked for last year for taxes, but everything got worse. If we give you more money in taxes, are things going to get even more worse? Yeah, so if you move there, make sure you know about the school taxes on top of the other taxes I already talked about. Number 2, fracking. Now this is a tough subject to tackle. Fracking is not liked by most people unless you're making money off of it or you get a job from it. Sure, it brings money into the state's economy, but is it worth the damage? Fracking does a lot of weird stuff. The first thing everyone talks about is the injection wells. This is where they're shooting toxic water into the ground to bring up the oil and gas. Don't know how all that works, but the crux of it is they are injecting toxic water into the wells, and that's creating problems. Obviously, there's some serious health concerns. A few years back, one of the ponds they had for that stuff leaked and got into a stream or something. And then, of course, out in the Youngstown area in 2011, 2012, one injection well was creating earthquakes. Yes, seismic activity because of an injection well. The activists aren't going for it. In recent months, they've said that they're going to start letting them frack in a national forest in Ohio. Ohio has one national forest. The only thing that it's good for is it does bring money into the economy, and that is good. That is definitely good. But at what cost? Is it worth it in the end of the day? The people making money off it have all kinds of reports and explanations on how great fracking is, and in how the environmental impact is really minimal. Then you talk to the environmental activists and they've got a totally different story. Over the years, there's been a lot of weird things gone on because of fracking. Years ago, it was all over the news and people were turning on their faucets and brown water was coming out. One guy was actually holding a lighter right next to the water coming out of the faucet, and it was like igniting a little bit. It was crazy. So if you move there, be prepared. There's going to be a lot of petitions to be signed. If you are an environmental conscious person, you might be living next to one of these things. If you have concerns about the groundwater, you really want to do some research on where you're going to move to in Ohio. I don't know how you approach that subject with the realtor. Just ask him, does the water catch fire here? I mean, besides the Cuyahoga River in Cleveland in the 70s. All right, before we get to number 1, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up if you like what we're doing here. Maybe even subscribe. Leave me a comment. Tell me what you thought about this series. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, county fairs. County fairs are a bigger deal than most newcomers expect, and they run all summer. Nearly every one of Ohio's 88 counties runs its own fair. On top of that, the state fair in Columbus and the 4-H involvement is a genuine rite of passage for a lot of kids. Livestock showing, demolition derbies, and fair food are treated as serious local traditions, not a quaint throwback. Now, county fairs, state fairs, are kind of this thing of America. A lot of relationships started at them, believe it or not. There was a time when the county fair was basically a teenage dating app, only with more livestock and fewer profile pictures. You'd show up wearing your best jeans, too much cologne, and enough confidence to believe winning a stuffed bear would somehow prove you were husband material. Then you'd see her. She'd be standing near the tilt-a-whirl with her friends, wearing an oversized sweatshirt, laughing like she didn't notice that you'd already walked past her 3 times, trying to look casual. Eventually somebody's friend would talk to somebody else's friend, then suddenly you were walking together. No phones, no texting, no checking whether she'd left you on read, just two nervous teenagers sharing curly fries and trying not to say anything stupid, which for me was always the biggest challenge, because I say a lot of stupid shit. The whole mission of county fair for a teenage boy is getting that girl on the Ferris wheel. And that's why county fairs are important. It is nice, the livestock and things to do and food to eat and go on rides and play games, but when you're a teenager, and why so many people get nostalgic about the county fair is the girls, the boys, the dating. Sadly, I do think that's part of American culture that's sort of fading. But in Ohio, like most of the Midwest, the county fair is a big deal. If you've never been to one, go to one. Enjoy it. Even if you're older, it doesn't matter. Go enjoy the county fair because it's a big deal to these people. All right, that's today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. If you like this video, I know you're gonna love this one. It's about factory towns that died. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.